Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone who is tuning in tonight. I hope that you're having a very, very lovely day because Ola and I are certainly having a very, very productive one. Now, a quick round of introductions. Many of you would have known us, especially if you've been tuning in for the past few weeks. Hey guys, everyone, this is Teacher Kean, and with me is my very good friend Ola, all the way from Dubai. Is that correct, Ola? Yep.
Yes, it's
And
true. Hi,
today,
everyone.
hey everyone, and Ola over here is an internal security expert. He is, of course, with Audra, and I am a parenting trainer. And what are we going to talk about today, Ola? Something very important, isn't it?
Yeah, because now we have a new challenge. And the new challenge is we're going back to work again.
Absolutely, yes. Why is that a challenge, though, Ola? Why is going back to
Well,
work a challenge?
we got used to be home. We used to run around in our pajamas and, have our coffee and running to the meeting minute before the meeting. Now we have the challenge of commuting and kids going back to school, maybe for the first time ever. And there's a lot of things to talk about.
Absolutely, Ola. Well, let's just bring everyone up to speed, all right? Especially if you are not in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we have finally emerged from the 1.5 year lockdown. And let me tell you, my friends, okay, wow, the shopping malls are packed, all right? Traffic on the roads are back to usual again. And everyone is booking physical appointments to go and meet each other face to face again. Definitely a lot of good news all around. However, as you have said, Ola, right? There are a lot of people who are also struggling, right? When offices are opening up, many of their employers are asking them to go back to the workplace. But guess what, Ola? Okay, a large problem in Malaysia is that our schools are not yet open. Now, this is a problem because when schools are not yet open, all right, our kids still have to go to online classes. So now there's a dichotomy, isn't it? All right, parents have to go to the office, and their kids need to have devices at home. Now there are a couple of problems over here, and I can definitely go and share some of the pains I've heard from parents from my point of view as a parenting trainer. Now, first things first, okay? In Malaysia, not every household has more than, let's say, two devices. So if both parents are going to work and they bring their devices with them, then how do their kids go to online class? So that's one problem. But even more of a headache. Let's say their children have online devices, right? Have internet capable devices. Are the parents supposed to go and leave the devices alone with the kids at home, okay, while they go to work? So now this is a huge headache, isn't it? Right? Um, Daycare centers are operating, but only at half capacity, right? Certain private institutions are operating, but only at half capacity. So that is a source of concern for many, many people in Malaysia. All right. So now, before we get into that, Ola, what other challenges can we face during the reopening of the economy? Just now, you mentioned something very, very interesting, and that was pajamas. Maybe you can go and start with that, Ola. What do you mean by people are used to wearing their pajamas?
Well, say you have a 9 o'clock Zoom call meeting. I don't think if you are home, myself included, you will take a shower, you will dress up, you will be ready for work, and then sit in a Zoom call meeting. You would probably have your pajamas on the bottom half of yourself and have another nice device, a shirt on the top, and conclude your business that way because you can get away with it because of the internet. But now, when you get to work, there is so many challenges ahead. One, as you said, scheduling with your kids. Enough devices, not enough devices. Can I leave them by themselves? The school hasn't started, or I've been so young. So this 1.5 year, I missed school when I was supposed to start school. So now my child is going to go for the first time to face school, teacher, and classmates for the first time. And that's a very big step for many of the kids and even the parents to be able to cope with this challenge when they are at the same time going to work. So, how do we cope with this?
I think those are very, very great questions, Ola. And I think that a lot of that these questions are weighing heavily on a lot of parents' minds. Yeah. Well, let's not talk about kids going back to school yet, because in Malaysia, at least, right, it is a couple of months down the road, I would think. Recently, I saw this survey which was sent out by my son's school, and this survey basically asked all the parents, right, when school reopens, would you be open? Would you feel safe to let your children go to school? And initially, a lot of people were answering, yes, I would send my kids to school again when it reopens. But very quickly, the opposite trend emerged. Yeah, most people, by the end of the survey, most people refuse to go and send their children to school. And I think in Malaysia, it is because our children are not vaccinated yet. Well, teenagers are slowly getting vaccinated, so that's definitely good news. But younger children, all right, below the age of 12, there's still no comprehensive vaccination plan for them yet. And I think that this worries a lot of parents. So now let's leave that aside for a moment. Although you're quite right, that is a really, really interesting issue, one which I would really love to dive in and talk to you for hours about. But let's talk about, yeah, how can we go and help our children? Are we really going to leave them alone at home with the devices and leave them to get on the internet, trust them to go to online class by themselves?
This is the challenge, and I think many parents today they see that, and even if they start school a few months down the road, uh, you need to start planning both for that transition to go live and also how to set up how you can take care of your child while at work they are by themselves in the internet world, either school or homework or just using internet uh, for their own consumption of entertainment, whatever they can do. So this is a challenge many will have, and looking at the trend, what has happened in the last couple of years, how children are explored and get content they're not supposed to explore or receive, and it creates a lot of bad issues today. How you are the expert in this, but in my opinion, how they are changing, how they're looking, say, for example, the male population, how they look on the female population, the way they're talking with them, the way they are interacting with them. Because on the internet space, you can do a lot of things and you are not held responsible because you can hide in that way that you cannot do physically when you're in school, the teacher, the parents, and so on. When you're online, you are kind of in the hidden space. So a lot of this bullying, cyberbullying, sex texting, a lot of things, content shared between young people that shouldn't be maybe shared and so on. So as a parent, what is our plan and how can we work to make this better? I think it's a challenging question I have to you.
Yep, that is definitely a very, very interesting question. And I'm sure that this question is weighing heavily on many, many parents' minds. Yeah, now that they're going back to work, leaving their kids on home, how do they have the security? How do they feel this? How do they feel the ease, all right, of letting their children be alone at home, and especially when we're not physically near them, absolutely, as you say, what if they get bullied, or what if they are the bullies? And what happens if they go and bring these attitudes to the real world? When they go to school, they think that it is normal for them to go and speak to a female classmate, or to their teachers even, or maybe they are using very harsh and very unnecessary words to their friends. Yeah, these are definitely issues which we have to think about, right? And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that at least from a parenting point of view, as parents, we definitely have to go and show a very, very keen interest in opening lines of communication with our children. And to me, of course, it is a multi-step process, but it always starts with building rapport and deep connections with your children, right? Instead of asking them, hey, this is a great point, Allah. All right. Instead of asking them, hey, how was school today? How was online school today? Now, you will notice that a lot of children, all right, when you ask them questions like, how was school today? They will just go and answer in one sentence, and that's the end of the conversation. Actually, right, this is something which we should avoid asking people when we want to go and build rapport with them as well. Right? It is because when you ask a risky question like, hey, how was work today? Now, the fact of the matter is this, yeah, Allah, okay? Most people don't actually like their work. Most people don't actually like their work, so they're gonna give you an answer like, hey, wow, it has been a tough day, or my boss was chewing me out today, or it's been a really long day, I'm really tired. And somehow the conversation just ends there. Now, if you're really, really interested, if you're genuinely interested in creating conversation with someone, ask them questions which are guaranteed to have a happy ending. Like, for example, all right, don't ask them how was your work or how was school, right? Ask them questions which are guaranteed to have a happy ending. Like, for example, hey, the economy is reopening. Where would you like to go on holiday? Right, that will definitely have a happy ending. They're going to tell you, oh, I want to go here, or I want to go there, or my friend's parents brought them here. Maybe you can go there as well, and the conversation can keep flowing. Yeah. So just a little hint there on how to go and communicate with people if you want to get them talking. Yeah. Don't ask them risky questions. Ask them questions to which allow them to go and tell a happy ending. Yeah.
I had a challenging question from my ex-wife last week because my son is 16 now, and he has got a girlfriend.
Ah, all right.
So she text me and said, "Listen, I think it's good when you see him because he's gonna spend Christmas and New Year with me. I haven't seen him for 2 years due to the pandemic. So it's good for you to have that conversation with him regarding girls." And I said, "Obviously," and then obviously. When you start a conversation like that with a 16 years old and you're talking about the traditional way about sexual content and how you should treat somebody else and respect and all these kind of things, but I can guarantee you a 16-year-old like my son would have spent thousands of hours researching on the internet regarding everything in this subject. So it's not really having that conversation, is to understand how and what he had received in that information from the internet, and then steer him the right way of explaining the consequences if it's the wrong approach or the right approach. So it's a total different way you're going to have a conversation today than you had before, because our kids today would have a lot of information at their fingertips, but what we need to filter and find out is what is the right information or what is the bad information they have received and think are the right information. So that's a new challenge as a parent, I think, in this digital age.
You're absolutely right. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Ola. And it can be quite. All right, so now over here, I would really, really like to go and talk a bit about this topic called algorithmic polarization, which is something I'm very, very passionate about speaking. Yeah, I've noticed, especially amongst the youth, all right, and like you mentioned, children or young adults who are maybe above 14, right? I've noticed that they become very entrenched in their beliefs, right? If they have a belief, they tend to be really, really stubborn about it. Stubborn is perhaps too strong a word, right? They are very, very entrenched in their beliefs. Now, why is this? It is because perhaps if they went online, all right, and if they typed on Google, they made a search on Google, or perhaps they did a search on YouTube, right? So now, what they start reading will eventually become an echo chamber, isn't it? Right. Why? Because Google and YouTube keeps showing you things you like to see. So a very, very good example would be, let's take this relatively harmless example of Apple products here. If you are an Apple fan, most likely, all right, you will continue to go and see articles and videos related to Apple when you go on YouTube or when you go on Google. And when you go and search for a topic, like for example, This is a great one, which some of my students recently asked me: was Steve Jobs a good or bad person? Was Steve Jobs a good or bad person? And I asked everyone to Google it because I knew the answer, right? And true enough, everyone had different answers on their phones, depending on how much they were an Apple supporter,
Yeah.
right? And why does this happen? It is because Google and YouTube keeps showing us things which we like to see. And this is a big problem because our children are not developing critical thinking skills if they keep on seeing one side of the argument.
And it's not just the kids, it's the
It's not just
adults.
the
Look
kids.
at politics, look at the
Look at
US election, look at the Malaysia election, look at all the elections around the world today. It's the same kind of power that makes you go a different direction. That you
absolutely.
think you're not going, but you're actually going because of this exactly what you're talking
Absolutely. I remember there was one week I was watching this really good clip by Ben Shapiro, right? He's a YouTube commentator, but he happens to be on the Republican side of the spectrum for the US. And let me tell you, for the rest of the week, my YouTube feed was just filled with Republican news. It's really interesting, yeah. And I can imagine, right, for younger children, especially when they're adults and when their opinions are not fully formed, when they do not have the as much critical thinking skills as us, right? They can become quite dug in and entrenched in one area of belief. And this relates exactly back to what you said, they might have read certain things on the internet, or they might have found a group of people they resonate with on the internet, which has fed them certain ideas, right? And these ideas may not always be true. Like, for example, if they just so happen to get in touch with a bunch of friends who are very sexist, for example, on the internet, right? They might develop certain beliefs which are very sexist as well. And I think that you're absolutely right. It is no longer about telling them what's right or what's wrong or starting from scratch. It's probably a bit of back and forth is involved now, yeah. When I'm going to ask them, hey, what have you been hearing? Do you think that's right? Why do you think that's right? Yeah, I think that's absolutely beautiful, Ola. Thank you for that.
about. So, how are we going to deal with this? And this is where we, from Audra team, thought about when regarding home and our home shield product is about filtering, is about you as a parent are still in control of your home, meaning that for your kids, what they should and should not be exposed to in a very simple way. And this is where we see the demand for the future is going to be very big in the sense of because we all have this problem. And I am in this space for a very long time, but I still have this problem at home. And I know the answers to many other things, but I still have the challenges because our kids get smarter and smarter and they will bypass many of these things as well to get the access that they want to have access to. I mean, if we talk, if I ask somebody about a VPN in my age group, 99% will not understand what that is. And our kids, 99% will understand what it is because it gives them the way of access to what they want to see. So they learn very quickly. So, us as a parents, we need to understand what are the challenges, try to cope, try to catch up because our kids are smarter than we are today when it comes to this the internet technology and utilization of internet and services, whatever it is. So we need to have tools um, to better understand and monitoring and guiding our children. It is not enough to give them the tablet and then when they are naughty, take away the tablet because it really doesn't work. So we need to find new ways, technology, put us on this road either for the good or for the bad, but technology as well will help us to put us back on track when it comes to these issues. So two things that I see that is very important. One is we need to communicate with our children or our family members. It cannot be. My father says one thing, my mother says another. It has to be a unified front, and the communication has to be honest, I believe, very honest and truthful, not to hide or try to protect our children in the wrong way of not telling them or telling them a story that is not the truth. And with technology, assist us of managing, because it's actually about managing today, I think, our family, our beliefs, and our usage of internet in our house. Because it's internet today is like electricity. It's there. You need to have it every day, but are you getting too much of it, or you're getting too little, or you don't know how to handle it? So this is a new era, a new challenge we all have, and going back to work is even going to make it more difficult for us, even if, say, the kids are either going to school or they're staying at home. Because how can we monitor them? How can we assist them? How can we manage? How can we help? And I think, yeah, please.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah, yep.
And what we did with our product is we looked at it as just like a business, just like an office. It's about making something enterprise protective firewall, but make it user friendly for the home to be able, with a couple of taps, clicks on an application, set my rules. For an example, I do not want them to get this advertisement about Apple. We talked about Apple or politics and so on. So I will just tap in 1 second, no adware or ads in my internet from my child, because my child is 7 years old, for example, and he should not have this access. Malware, because we click on everything, especially when we're young, because oh, this pops up in my screen. Oh, there's a happy face. That looks cool. I will click on that. So it's about managing content that you do not want them to see or interact with. So you can, in an easy way, say anything that has to do with weapons or guns or violence. This website is not appropriate for a 12-year-old and younger person, for example. So with one tap, I can then make sure that in the internet my son is using at home or daughter will not have access to this kind of information. So we have built it in the way of giving time management, how much time they should be able to have internet when I'm not at home. For school, whitelist, blacklist is terminology nobody will know what it is, but it's tools to help better manage the internet for my kids at home. And I have a view from office where I can actually see what's going on with my child, what kind of categories they access, what even they cannot access them, to better understand what they are doing and then have the right dialogue and guide the right way for a better, healthy, balanced life of internet in home.
Yep. So now, previously, when we were talking about Aura Home Shield, I recall that you were telling me that for the first few weeks when you install Aura Home Shield, most parents would be absolutely shocked with the reports generated like Aura, isn't that? Now, for the benefit of the audience who have just joined us this week, why don't you go and tell us a bit more about that, Ola? What does it mean that most parents will be shocked by the reports which are generated by Aura Home Shield?
Okay, I will give a very good example because I think it puts it in context. Say for an example, you go on internet today. You're on your phone. You click. You go through the Facebook feed. You go for every feed. You go online. You do these things. If you click on history in your application on that web browser, you click on the history, and you browse down that list, and you start counting how many websites in the last 24 hours I visit. You will understand of a child, that list will be 10 times bigger. Meaning, say for an example, we put Audra and I block a category. Say it's gaming, because I don't want him to game when it's school hours, or category of whatever it is. I block that category and I can see in the report how many attempts my child have tried to go to a website in that category. And we're not talking 10, we're not talking 20 normally, we're talking thousands. So in a week, thousands of trials in the beginning will be done on different websites in that category normally. So week by week, just like a child when you're very young, if you cannot do it or you screaming, I want an ice cream and I was an ice cream, and I will never give you an ice cream when you scream. Obviously, after a week or two, you will say, okay, it's not working, so I cannot go that strategy. And same shaping automatically Audra does for you with the behavior of your child on internet automatically, because week 2, week 3, week 4 you will see less and less and less attempts because they know that they cannot access it, so they lose interest to trying because they try so many times, because it's very time consuming first of all, and each time you try there is a failure, so obviously you're not going to be motivated after a while. So that is a way Audra helps a lot, because guarantee if you look in your WhatsApp feed and you look at a dialogue you have either with your wife or your friends, and you start scrolling and you see how many messages, how many things you shared during a week period, you can understand then how much your child will be online and doing these things 10 times more.
Yep, absolutely. And over here, Ola, let me go and ask you a question, yeah, because data is so important and it can be such a great tool in helping us parent our children or to go and communicate with other people, yeah, right? But knowing the attempts is just one half of the story, isn't it? You said something really beautiful just now, right? We can use this data to perhaps open talking points with our children, right? How would you suggest we do this?
Because, for example, say, for example, I block adult websites because you can still have access to them even in Malaysia in many aspects, right? Because if my child is have say a 6 year old daughter has a big brother that is 13 and she is looking what he's doing online, obviously because younger children likes it's cool to hang out with the older kids, but that behavior and that content they're looking at is not appropriate for a 6 year old, but they learn that behavior that way. So it's very important in that way to make sure that that doesn't happen. But also saying, for example, my 13-year-old is going 7,000 times to block adult web content. Obviously, he's very interesting because maybe he's going into puberty and whatever the story is, right? Maybe he has got a girlfriend or is learning, exploring the subject because it's a subject you cannot discuss with your mother or your father many times because for many reasons. But now you can understand as a parent that this happening, good or bad, it has no relevance. But it's for you as a parent because in the end, you are the one that is educating your children, not the internet, in what is the right way or the wrong way in life. So now you have a tool in front of you where you see that this is happening and you can have that dialogue. Obviously, the first minutes will not be very comfortable either for your child or yourself because you do not know really what to how to approach it. But it's a necessity. Now you know, and you have proactively understanding that this is going on. So now you can actually have an educational approach to the subject, what you need to discuss, without being angry, because that will not help, because it just will scare your child into become thinking that this subject is not and wrong way in maybe an adulthood later on. Is to have that discussion and be proactive of asking, not just telling. Listen to that what they have to say, and then guide them the right way. Because otherwise, if you are angry with them or you are exploding onto them, screaming at them or shouting at them, or they will lock down and they will not discuss the subject with you. And I don't think anybody will benefit from that end result.
Yep, absolutely. I think those are really, really wise words, yeah, Ola. I think that empathy and active listening are very, very important. Okay, especially when you're broaching a subject like this. Now, Ola, I think that we received quite a number of very interesting comments from the members of the audience here. Now, there is one. Yes, this is one of them. But I think earlier there was another one. Yeah, I'm so worried that my children might be sexting. Yeah, is there any way to go and stop them? Does Ultra Home Shoe help with that? Does it?
Well, when you do it in WhatsApp and so on, it's not very because it's an end-to-end encrypted communication. But there is other tools online that you can obviously, because normally if you're sexting and doing things, you're also gonna research online. You're gonna go to different websites and you're gonna learn things. What are you watching on YouTube? What kind of videos are you watching? Are they inflammatory videos about being against the other? If it's a man, how to treat a woman, and so on. So you can learn from where they're trying to get their information. But there is other tools as well. I know that there is applications that you can actually uh, get these kind of tools to put on your child's applications to better understand what they're doing and what they're sending. Because the worst part is when you're sending any kind of not only the text, obviously, depending on how you're going to hurt somebody else, but it's also everybody's influence as young today, unfortunately, is sending pictures that they shouldn't have sent. Could be of themselves, it can be half naked, it can be not naked, but it can be in different postures that maybe is not the right. But remember, the one that receives this sometimes is not your friend.
Mm-mm.
They will use that in a way to hurt you when they are not in good friendship with you anymore, like classmates, like
Ex-girlfriends.
exactly. So it's about being very careful because what you put out there will never disappear because
That's
it's
right.
digitally
Yeah.
printed and it will always stay there. And this is very important as a parent to educate our children about the privacy as them as a young person, how they handle content and how they receive content in the right manner. And this is the most difficult challenge, both for the children and for the adult to handle, because you always do it in the heat of the moment. You're angry, you are excited, you are hurt. So that's when you're going to do things, just like when you have a fight with your wife or vice versa, or with a friend. You're doing the wrong choice at the moment, at the heat of the moment. But unfortunately, on internet, it never disappears. You cannot take it back.
You
So
can't take it back. That's right.
it's
Yeah.
very important to understand this as a parent and guide our young children at the right time with this information, I think.
Absolutely. I think that that is very, very interesting indeed. Yeah. Now, Ola, all right, now coming back to the main topic, because even though we had a very, very deep discussion and very insightful discussion, yeah, okay, let's come back to the main topic. And I think one of the members of the audience asked something which is very, very important, right? This person, right, when we were talking about going back to work, he or she actually mentioned that he feels very uncomfortable when interacting with colleagues in the workplace again. So now, Ola, all right, we are both professionals. We've been around the block for quite some years now. What tips do you have for our audience members who are worried about this? Yeah, I feel awkward sometimes after office started. I miss the old days of working at home. So now, any communication tips to go and help ease people back into their physical work routines?
I, th- it's very difficult because every person is different, personalities, how they approach in the office, and so on. Female, males, everybody. But I think it's important to share the experience. I think it's a very good talking point when you go back to office is sharing your experience, how you experienced it when you worked from home, and actually ask some of your friends, co-workers, their opinion, how they cope with it and so on, because it's a common ground for everybody, and everybody has exactly the same issues when it comes to this, either with the kids at home, schooling, going back to work. And I think it's a very good talking point and a sharing point to bond faster at work, not just about the work, but it's actually how they had this last 1.5 year at home, because it's a great talking topic for everybody, because everybody copes with it differently. But the most challenging, I believe, is time management
All right.
going to work. How are you going to manage? Either they're homeschooling still, or they're going, you have to take them to school. I have to go to office. I have to learn to get up early, the commuting, traffic, the communication. My son is at home. I need to monitor him, what's going on, etc., etc. So it's a lot of parts, and I think sharing at the co-working space where you work with your coworkers is a very good start, because they will have their experience, you have yours, you share it, and you have a common bond, and many solutions and good tips will come out.
Yep. Definitely right. You're absolutely right. One common thing which unites us all is the struggle of the past 1.5 years, right? Maybe some people are going through isolation, right? If you can go and see your co-workers struggling with that, you could go and ask, hey, are you all right? Why don't you go and tell me about it? Huh? Or if you yourself, are struggling with that, you can go and say, hey, I have this problem. Yeah, what do you think you can help me out? Right? What would you do if you were in my situation? And generally, I would like to believe that people are really, really good, right? People are benevolent at heart, and I'm sure that they would really open the lines of communication to help you out if you don't mind showing a vulnerable side once in a while, isn't it? Yeah, but absolutely, you're absolutely right. Yeah, time management is going to be a huge issue. Commuting, traffic jams. My goodness, we didn't have to deal with this for the longest time, and now we is going to be part of our reality again. Yes, and over here, and there's this comment from the audience. I'm facing time challenges after getting back to work, losing 2 hours a day on commuting. Right. So I think that we really have to get into the habit of sleeping earlier and waking up earlier, and that's going to be good for your health anyway. Yeah. So yeah, just have a little bit of self love, right? Love yourself a bit better. Let's not go scrolling on news feeds and Facebook until the wee hours of the morning anymore, right? Let's get back to being physically active, right? And perhaps you might even carve out some time for you to exercise together with your children. Yep, I think those are great points over there. Now, Ola, okay, how about distractions when we're working from home, right? Generally speaking, our colleagues had to go and communicate with us through WhatsApp or through emails. But in the workplace, it's different, isn't it? Right? Some people feel that they are more productive in the workplace, but in reality, a lot of people will be constantly interrupted by their colleagues while all of them are physically at work. And we all know that feeling. We're trying to go and get this document out. We're trying to produce a really, really good piece of work. Then our colleague walks in and says, hey, could you help me out with this? Now, when we're working at home, we had the luxury of ignoring them for a while, right? Because generally they will ping you on WhatsApp or they will go and send you an email to go and ask you for favors. But in the workplace, people feel that they have people feel more comfortable when they walk up to you and go and ask you for guidance or ask you for help. So now, how should we manage that, Ola? Do you have any tips for us?
I think it's two approaches. The European approach is going for working days, or work certain days from home, working certain days from office in the beginning. The other one is you have to be disciplined, and that also causes a problem in, I think, in the Malaysia society, is that you do not want to. I'm Swedish, so I can say no, please, I don't have time, because that's part of my culture ways. But in Malaysia, that is not the culture. So there's a bigger challenge, I think, for Malaysia in that sense, because that one I do not really have an answer for, because I cannot really speak on that behalf, since I am a very different approach when it comes to it. If somebody bothers me, I will tell them straight up. So
Yep.
a little bit different.
Fortunately, I do have a very, very, very good sample, right? And perhaps our tech team can go and write it out as I dictated. All right, this is a great answer, which you can use at the workplace, or you can even go use it with your children if both of you are still working from home and studying from home. Yeah, okay? Everyone, listen closely. Yeah, okay? All right, now, thank you for your question. All right, I am really swamped right now. However, you are important to me. Why don't you go and write down what you need? I'll get back to you once I have a breather. So you can use this at the workplace and you can use it with your children as well. Now, over here, this is really, really important because you're thanking that person for coming to you. So you don't want them to be scared of you, yeah? If we go and say to our children, hey, go away, I told you a million times, don't come to me, right? When I'm working. So what will happen is over time, they sort of give up on you, right? They surrender because they feel that, hey, I come to you and I'm not getting any comfort. I'm not getting any support. I'm not getting any guidance anyway. So why should I continue to come to you? So that's the first thing, yeah. So you don't want them to hide things from you. The same with your colleagues, yeah. Eventually, you will need your colleagues in one form or another. So you don't want to go and shut them off from it. So, yep.
But one important thing here, and that is if you tell them you will come back to that question, you really have to come back to
You
that question.
really have to.
Because
Absolutely.
most
You're
of the
right.
time we see and we just forget about it. So that is important as well in that context.
You're absolutely right. And so let's all not say things which we don't mean, yeah? So if they really write it down for you, go and stick it on your monitor, right? Go and put it on the monitor and make sure that when you have a breather, get back to them, all right? Tell them,
Follow.
if you tell someone that they are important, right, really mean it. Yep. So while working from home, could spend more time with family. Yes, look at this question on the screen, Ola. What do you think about it? Do you agree that do you prefer to work at home?
Yes and no, depends. But I think it's important as if you are the owner of a company and you are to see the new reality. And I think what they have done, a friend of mine that runs a company in Europe, he just went straight out and said, okay, from now on, we do 4 days office work, and the productivity has to be in that 4 days, but you will have another day to spend with your family. So he's actually giving his employees the challenge, okay, be disciplined when you work, but you get the reward of spending another day with your family. So I think it's up to the business owners and the employers to actually see, and I think this is going to be the big challenge for the HR teams and your teams that are working with big organization, how to find out the right balance to make it as efficient as possible, but still giving that support and the ongoing process that is needed inside a company, specifically bigger companies, to be able to do this. Because it's self discipline from the owner and it's self discipline from the employees. Because it's a trade off that both has to commit to, and if they don't, it's gonna fail.
Yep. Hey, Ola, what you just mentioned has reminded me of a very, very important topic which I have just done some research on just this week. And in that research which I conducted, all right, it appears that for your emotional health or for your financial health or for your career success, there is one key factor which separates the successful people, the healthy people, from the not so healthy people, whether it's emotionally or physically. And that is the ability to focus. Right. Generally speaking, people who are able to focus really well on tasks, right? They tend to be more financially successful. They tend to go further in their careers. They tend to be healthier. Now, Ola, you are a person who can really, really focus. Yeah, why don't you go and share some tips with me and the audience? How do you go and get into such a focused state? Do you do mental discipline exercises, or how
No,
do you do it?
no. To be honest, I am. Uh, Before, I procrastinated a lot.
All right.
I'm lazy in some part of my life. Like going to the gym never happens. So I need to compensate because I don't go to the gym. I have to be disciplined in something else, meaning that when I eat something, I check my weight. When I go up 2 kilos, for example, I stop eating at night. I stop for a week to, so I'm going back to normal. So this is the way my procrastination of being disciplined to be able to balance why I don't go to the gym. Okay, so I have discipline and focus in some areas, and in some areas I do not. But I need to compensate that I don't have focus in these areas with discipline in other areas. So this is my remedy, how I can manage my part. But I always also start every morning when I wake up. I take my 3 espressos and I write the list exactly what I need to do for the day. I have it in my mobile phone. I have it in my calendars, but it's a reminder for me to stay focused to achieve what I need to do that specific day. If it's going to the doctor, if it's going to the work, or I have a meeting, or I have a webinar, or whatever it is, I put it down there. And then when I finish it, I tick it off. Because in the end of the day, I see I did it, what I did most of the time. To be honest, when you do it this way, I do 100% tick off of achieving what I had to, for me, was the most prioritized things for the day. Some things are not priority, so obviously they will not come on this list. This is the list what I have to achieve today, in the sense in my world or my to feel fulfilled and not having a bad conscience. So this is I do every morning. This works very well for me. I tried on my mobile phone, I tried on my computer, I tried in my calendar. It gives me the beep, beep, 10 minutes before, oh, I have something going on, but really the list gives me focus every day to accomplish what I want for this day and tomorrow and so on. But I kind of remind myself every morning by writing the list because I already have it in my calendars, but reminding me what is important today to achieve. And that gives me the focus that I need to make sure that this happens, this happens, this happens.
Wow, I think that's lovely, and I hope that all the members of the audience got that very valuable tip, right? To do lists are really, really powerful. Well, maybe not a to do list, but at least an important list, a priority list, yeah? Because to do list might be a bit stifling. Some people might feel not very accomplished if they don't achieve everything on their to do list. But you're absolutely right about the ticking off. It is very important for you to go and write down what you want to achieve today and to go and strike it off with a big tick or with a big crossover, because when you do that you are really feeding yourself with a lot of dopamine and serotonin, and that will keep you motivated towards going on to your next goals. Yeah, thank you so much for that tip, Ola. I think that was very, very lovely.
It doesn't
Yep.
work for everybody, but it works for me. I'm old school. Some do it on their phone, some do it on their computer because millenniums works on these kind of mediums. I was schooled on the old paper and pen, so that still sticks with me and is the most effective for me.
Yep. So how about when you're actually working, there are thousands of distractions every day. Yeah, people are emailing you, people are WhatsApping you. How do you deal with that? How do you resist the urge to go and check your social media feeds when you're working, Ola?
I do two things, and sometimes my coworkers in and doesn't like it. Is that I don't have my notifications on my mobile phone. So I don't when there is a WhatsApp, like for example, we do webinars sometimes. They sending me messages on my phone, but I have no idea until after the webinar is finished that they send me some messages because I turn off the notifications and making sure that I am in control of my life, not my phone. First of all, that's my way of thinking about it. And the other one is I like it to be simple. So for me, it's the easiest way to better get less distraction because I know this is my priority. If my colleague comes in and talking about cricket or tonight, whatever it is not my priority at this specific time because this is my priority. And the list gives me the priority to finish. But also, when I wake up in the morning, I get up at 6. I have my coffees. I sit down. I do my list. I do my emails. So during the day, I don't focus really on my emails. Every half an hour, every hour, I check my WhatsApp, and but I don't have any. Beep, 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 beep. or going on. So I have trained myself to be less addicted on the mobile phone. And when I go into a meeting, I never bring my phone because for me that's the worst ever. When you are in a meeting with other people and everybody is on their phone instead of paying attention to the meeting. But I think I'm old school. That's why I think so.
I think that that is absolutely brilliant, Ola. Definitely, our brains are overstimulated all the time, and our brains are really constantly searching for distractions because we are overstimulated. Yeah, and yeah, I think that putting down your phones, right, having the discipline and having the discipline to slow down your thoughts, right, is so important, and it really helps you focus on what another person is saying. And the picture which you painted of people being around in the meeting room with everyone on their phones is so disrespectful, yeah, and probably going to make that meeting um, very
Unproductive. Yes.
unproductive, yeah, and probably going to cause some resentment in the speaker. Yeah, and yeah, it's not going to be very good for everyone's mental and emotional health, especially towards how they feel towards each other. So now let's take a look at this question over here. I use Audra for my office, helps me to avoid distraction for my teams. Wow, okay, now this is really interesting, Ola. Why don't you go and tell us a bit about this? I think this is probably coming from a team leader or from an employer. Right, I use Audra for my office, helps me to avoid distractions for my teams. How does Audra help teams avoid being distracted?
Because, for an example, say you have an organization, you're not a two office team, but maybe you have 20 people in your office. You have a marketing department, you have the admin department, you have the sales department, and so forth. So, what is important for productivity during the day to stay focused? Or I can help because I can then, the group that is in, for example, admin, they should maybe only working on the banking to pay payrolls, to pay bills, accounting department, etc. So during office hour, why would they have access to internet to do their social things when that is supposed to be utilized for doing the work? Because imagine 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or even beginning with mobile phones, when you walk into an office or a restaurant or a fast food, at least for me, it was like no. When you check in at the restaurant, you put your phone in the locker, and when you are on break, you can use your phone. Or same in the old way office. No personal phone calls during office hours. You can talk during the break, etc., etc. So why today in some categories should we have full access to our private life during office life when we're supposed to do something? It's not to be rude or anything, saying yes, social life, private life is important, but also there is a commitment you to the work and the work to you while you are there, and that should have the priority if unless there is an emergency.
I
Chatting about private things during office hour is not a priority either for the employer or for the employee, for example.
I
So
totally
now
agree. Yep.
I can then manage bandwidth, who and what categories they can have access to during certain hours, and which team should have access to more internet or less internet during these things. And obviously, during work breaks and lunch is open for do everything you want to do. Because looking at the fact, when office was open before the pandemic, the hours right after lunch, when lunch breaks, you came back to work. That 2 hours between 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. is when most e-commerce is taking place in Malaysia, for example.
I see. Wow, that's very valuable insight. Okay, all right. So now please continue that narrative. This is getting really interesting.
So obviously, me as an employee is great because I'm now spending my time doing my private things, doing my shopping, doing all these kind of things. But to be honest, you made a commitment to work, and the work made a commitment to you.
Yep.
So the productivity, why not instead being more productive? during the work hours and get more free time for your family. Because by spending the 2 hours shopping, you're not finishing your work. Means maybe you have to stay longer at work, or finishing it off during weekends, or the whole process. Because an office or a business, it's a teamwork. It's not in hierarchy where the boss tells you what to do. It's actually a teamwork. So if the team doesn't work together, it will not perform. So it's an important, because it's uh, you team, and you need to be able to work together to make the best outcome for the company, yourself, and uh, the employees per se. This is how I look at it in a way, because then you have harmony at work. You produce, you feel accomplished, and the owner will be happy. You will be happy in the sense
Your clients will
because
be happy. All the
exactly
stakeholders will be
because
happy. Yeah.
things will be better, I think, than just coming, sitting the time at the office and not doing it means somebody else has to do it. And it becomes then that kind of imbalance in the
Mm.
workspace.
Cascading effect. You will probably have to work late and then you will not be happy, or you have to work on the weekends and that eats into your personal time anyway, isn't it? So now, Ola, why don't we go and wrap it up by why don't you go and tell us, right, that how can an employer use Audra in that example which you gave, yeah? During let's say from 9 o'clock until lunchtime, you can't access to all of these sites, but during lunch hour, the employer can be very generous and go and allow everyone to use the Wi-Fi to access Facebook, for example, or to access some shopping sites for maybe 2 hours. Then it's back to work again, right? Strict prohibitions again.
Or
Now, how
say for
how
an, or say for an example, you are a business, you have visitors. Why
right?
would you give them access to do whatever they want on the internet in your office, for an example? Because they maybe go to bad contents, or they are actually bringing in adware, malware, other things that is not healthy in your network when there's an open Wi-Fi. So it's a very easy, just like home with a home shield, with a few taps, you set the time schedule, this hour to this hour, how much time. So you can see here, as an employer or as a family home, you will see in the first screenshot, you will see how much internet is usage, how many people are using it. Then on the second screenshot, you see groups. That means you can, here it says children, guests, and my group. Means that as on an office, you will set, for example, the management, guests, accounting, marketing, etc. And each device will then be in the appropriate group and assigned depending on the usage what they should be able to utilize, as you can see on blocked categories. For example, if you're in working in the office, I should block adware, malwares, and these kind of things, because it makes the internet more slower, and bandwidth in the office is not as good as at home, for example, because you have more people utilizing the internet. So you can manage better the internet, the productivity, as the owner of the company or the HR of the company or the admin. But with a few little clicks or taps, you have it done. And it makes a better, healthier, and faster internet in the office, and everybody will be more productive when it's counted for.
Wow, I think that's absolutely beautiful, and I think that most companies should consider implementing this. Yeah, okay. Now, is it very expensive to install Audra for industries, for businesses? Ola,
No,
what?
it's really not. Say, for example, if you have a company of 20 people, you have to buy an expensive firewall, but to run that firewall, okay, you buy it once, it's expensive, but then you have to maintain it. And maintaining it, if you have an admin person, is not the right person, because it's very complex normally, because you have to set the rules, you have to block category by site, not by category itself, and there's millions of websites out there that is not going to make you productive in the office. So if you hire somebody, it's going to take the full year just to set up the firewall that way. So it's important that the cost of Audra for a small business is the same as 1 month's salary of having an IT guy at the office. So you're actually saving a lot of money, a lot of time, and the easiness of understanding how your co-workers is utilizing and using the internet in your business.
Right. Now, if I were an employer or if I were a HR person and I love this concept, right? How do I go and get Audra? Where can I get it from?
You go to the websites, you talk to AI at Home. AI at Home is our retail stores in Malaysia that is our partner. I think with them, this the easiest way is to go see it in action in in the store. They are in all the malls, I think, the major malls here in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, and just test it. Go for a minute, ask the guy there to show you or download the app and see exactly how it works, because the same principle is for your office.
All right. Okay.
So I think that's the easiest way to better feel it, test it, and see that we it really does what it's supposed to do in a very simple way.
Wow, that's absolutely lovely, Ola. I can definitely see how it would help my organization, for example. Yeah. All right. Now, thank you so much, Ola. Now, if there are no more questions from the audience, I think that this was such a lovely chat. I learned so many things from you, Ola. Every time I chat with you, I feel that I've gained so much. So excited. Thank you for all the questions from the audience. It was a really, really engaging session tonight. All right. So now, any closing remarks, Ola, before we say good night to our audience members over here?
Today, check AI at Home in Malaysia, their website, and this weekend, visit their stores in the mall and challenge the sales guy. Hey, I want to see this in action and see how it works.
Absolutely.
That's the
All
first step.
right.
This is about action. Take action. And I think this is a good way to start.
Yep. All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. I had a blast of a time as usual chatting with Ola over here. I hope that you guys learned some tips on how to go and handle the transition from going online back to offline work. Yeah. And I am sure that we addressed many of your concerns, right? Especially when it comes to children, what they're doing on the internet and how Audra can help you in some regards. Yeah. All right. So now, good night, everyone. Thank you for being with us. And thank you so much, Ola, for chatting
Thank
with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Younger kids now, they get depressed easily as well. They're constantly on their gadgets, like on the internet, and looking down, and no life, and that is their life. And when they wake up in the morning, that's the first thing they do.
Teenagers, I mean, that's a whole other level when they lock themselves in the room for hours on end on their phones and on the internet. Yeah, really, I mean, God knows what they're doing, right?
But unfortunately, security and the Internet of Things aren't often found in the same place. They're really vulnerable. And we see huge problems with people's personal data, their privacy being invaded, and maybe even their data being locked up and encrypted because IoT manufacturers don't spend enough time looking at security.
A few weeks now, and it is an amazing product. It is so simple to use. All you have to do is just connect the device to your modem and download the app to your phone, and can pretty much control it from anywhere.